забывай. Некоторые вещи нельзя забывать. Тень идет за мной. Нужно торопиться. Меня зовут Даниэль. Я живу в Лондоне. В Мэйфэйр. Что я натворил? Это безумие. Нельзя забывать. Нельзя. Я должен его остановить. Соберись. Меня зовут... Я Даниэль.
This is one of the first level that we created for the game, and it was initially part of the archives level, which we will reach in a bit. Amnesia started out with a pretty different design, and when we redesigned it the maps did not fit. This caused us to split them up and scatter them out. So in the first design, after this corridor, the archives level was supposed to follow, and the room lying there now was built much later. In fact, the first designs did not have Daniel waking up with an amnesia at all, and it was actually added later on. In the first story draft, Daniel still had hidden memories, but he was unaware of this at the start of the story. However, as we redesigned things, we found the waking up with amnesia thingy, although a bit cliché, much more fitting.
The editors themselves went through a lot of design changes during the development. Not that many in visual appeal as in internal stuff, like data structures and handling. This happened mostly because at the beginning we only knew the basic stuff that needed to be in them, and as they grew in features and functionality, they started to kind of fall apart, mostly due to my big lack of previous experience in projects like this. Right now, aloud what the hell still sounds in my head when I look at some parts of the code, but I am still proud of them. They can also get a bit buggy at times, but hopefully this won't happen again in the future, and I already got some nice ideas for the next iteration of the tools. Hi there, my name is Luis Rodero. I'm mostly the tool programmer, level scripter at times, and perhaps the main reason why the rest of the core team at Fictional Games is pretty much forced to speak English at our internal meeting, as I am the only non-Swede here. Now, what a Spaniard is doing with a bunch of Swedish guys is a whole different story we won't be discussing today. By the way, I will be talking mostly about tools and scripting. Hope you like it.
Августа 1839 года. Хотел бы я спросить тебя, помнишь ли ты хоть что-то? Боюсь, когда я выпью этот эликсир, в твоей голове не останется ни одного воспоминания. Не бойся, Даниэль. Не могу объяснить тебе почему, но я выбрал забвение. Постарайся найти в себе силы, потому что у тебя есть цель. Ты – мой последний шанс все исправить. Очень надеюсь, что имя Александра Бренненбургского все еще вызывает у тебя гнев. Если нет, то тебе не понравится то, что ты должен сделать. Иди во внутреннее святилище, найди и убей Александра. Он стар и слаб, а ты молод и силен. Ты легко с ним справишься. И еще одно. За тобой идет тень. Это оживший кошмар, который разрушает все на своем пути. Я перепробовал многое. От нее не уйти. Ты должен продержаться как можно дольше. И искупи наши общие грехи, Даниэль. Спустись в подземелье к Александру и убей его. Бывший ты, Даниэль.
I think we can all feel the story kick-starting as we finish the letter from Daniel. The game itself is just filled with confusion, and I think we're really doing the player a service keeping it simple in the beginning. Basically try to take your revenge on Alexander, that is the premise of the game. You don't really need to dive any deeper than that, but hoping that the player will care about the story, they have the entire game in front of them to decide if they think killing Alexander is justified or not. Hello everyone, my name is Mikael, and I'm the writer for Amnesia, The Dark Descent.
Это в замке, Александр?
Да, в каком-то смысле. Пойдем, возьми фонарь. Ты был в камере переработки, верно?
Не думаю. Она связана с... Как вы назвали это место?
Внутреннее святилище. Самый главный зал замка. Он находится за камерой переработки. На самом деле, он в глубине скал под Бренненбургом.
The entrance hall was first shown in our first gameplay trailer, and while the layout hasn't changed much, the details certainly have. We build our levels from sets of pieces, in this case, the custom-based set. While the carefully planned set pieces made level building very easy, the levels became very similar and we had to make special pieces for the levels. Now, 1.5 years later, the special pieces make up about half of the pieces in the custom-based set, and we made changes to incorporate these objects into the earlier levels. An example of this can be seen if you compare the hole in the roof now with the one from the first trailer. The new roof was made in the middle of the project when you built level 9 back hall. A special version was made to give the roof hole in the entrance hall more depth and detail. Hello, my name is Mark Nikander. I'm a 3D artist and level creator at Fictional Games. I started out as a helper during Penumbra Overture, and I was finally hired as a full-time artist in the later part of Penumbra Black Plague.
Scattered throughout the game, you can see some signs written in Latin. The reason for using it is that it was considered a language of culture and science, as most scientific and philosophy authors wrote their works and treatises in it. As we are dealing with a castle dwelled by a pretty smart guy that has been around since the Renaissance period, Latin all around the place was something we should expect. Being the only guy in the team that had a direct contact with Latin, in high school to be more precise, well, it was kind of logical that any translation to be done would have my name on it. Translating stuff into Latin was kind of strange and fun task to do. At first I had a classic Latin dictionary, so if I had to translate any modern term, I would have to track its etymology down to the Latin equivalent, or look for a synonym or similar expression that had a direct translation. Then I had the luck to come across some dictionary for modern stuff online that addressed most of this stuff for a huge lot of terms, so it couldn't have come in a better time. Some days I would have Sebastian dropping a list of 9 or so entries to be translated, and before finding this dictionary, it was quite a lot of work. On a side note, we even had a Choose Your Latin poll on a couple entries, just to pick the one that sounded better for everyone. Results were pretty unanimous, by the way. For some final words on this, I must confess that, while I was pretty good at this in high school, that was like 15 years ago, so right now I'm not 100% sure translations are correct at all, but I took the time to make them at least plausible, so my apologies go in advance to any Latin guru up there playing the game, as I myself get on the verge of losing my temper when I see stuff like this obviously made up. If you haven't followed our development blog back when it started, you might have missed one of the biggest changes in our production pipeline. 2 years back, we started a toolset side project to ease and speed up
мая 1839 года. Беспощадное африканское солнце по-прежнему мешает экспедиции. Копать невозможно до заката. До сих пор ума не приложу, как профессор Герберт обнаружил в этой пустыне нужное место. Я снова спросил его про гробницу, а он в ответ рассказал мне легенду о Тинхинан, матери всех людей. История, конечно, занятная, но я теперь просто уверен, что он что-то скрывает от меня. Тем вечером в песке мы обнаружили проход, который вел в подземное каменное строение. Профессор уверен, что это гробница, которую мы ищем. Он приказал расчищать ход, хотя была уже поздняя ночь и жуткий холод. Завтра я поведу людей в гробницу, попытаюсь добраться до усыпальницы. Что бы ни скрывал от меня профессор, мы наверняка найдем тут что-нибудь стоящее для Британского музея в Лондоне.
To finish this little overview of our tools, I must mention the Material Editor, available both standalone and built into the other editors. The program itself is very simple to use. You have some material types defined by the engine, and you can throw in textures to be used for diffuse, normal maps, height maps, as well as some variables to control specific parameters for a material type. When I was writing it, I could just stare while the preview model rotated around itself and the parallax mapping effect was on when testing, just for fun. Another piece of the toolset is the model editor, used to create the entities you are interacting with while playing. Basically, we take a model and set up some parameters like physical bodies, joints, and user-defined variables. We can also attach sub-entities to them, like lights, particle systems. When an entity is finally set up, it is ready to be placed in a level using the level editor. Examples of entities here are doors, lamps, most furniture, critters.
This level was changed a lot, and I think it's one of the most tweaked levels that we got. Not only was it part of the big archives level that we had to split up, but it was also hard to get it engaging enough. The problem here is that we don't have any sort of fun mechanic that we rely on to make the game engaging. Instead, we rely on story, atmosphere, and environment. This is true for many other levels and the game as a whole, but these were kind of the one of the larger levels that we made, and also one that didn't have much puzzles and such. So when testing it, we quickly get bored with it, and we wanted to add more spooky events to spice it up. But then later on, testing proved that these events weren't that necessary, and we also felt that they were a bit lame and not fitting, so we decided to remove them. Then the back part of the level, we wanted to make that a more linear experience, with the current player getting trapped and all, forcing the player to solve the destroy wall and find secret door puzzles. Previously, testers often missed that they can solve these problems. The level is now very different from the early designs.
17 мая, 1839 год. Руки дрожат, но я должен написать о случившемся, иначе боюсь, что забуду что-нибудь из-за нервного потрясения. Сегодня я с несколькими рабочими отправился в гробницу. Факелы горели тускло в затхлом воздухе подземелья. Арабы оказались суеверны. Они были напуганы и громко спорили. Меня начал доставать их галдеж, и, собравшись силами, я прикрикнул на них, чтобы шли вперед. Мы спускались по скатам и разбитым ступеням гробницы. Меня удивило, что проход был высечен очень грубо. Мы думали, что гробницу построили в IV веке, но камни казались куда древнее. Извилистый коридор привел нас в огромный зал. По стенам стояли статуи, подобных которым я в жизни не видел. Они были выполнены с величайшим мастерством и казались странно знакомыми. Меня до сих пор преследует это чувство. В конце зала была огромная каменная плита, которая закрывала путь дальше. Я приказал поднять ее. И стоило мне пройти в узкий проход, как плита рухнула. Я был в ловушке.
When I started writing, I had only outlined the framework for the story and the first few levels in the game design document, so I ended up finalizing a lot of material for the first levels, and then when those were done, we planned out the last 2/3 or so. This had a funny effect since I had to not only cater to the story, but to stay true to the stuff I've written for the first levels. Usually you can go back and forth while writing and change things, but if you have already recorded voices, you really shouldn't because of the costs. So the first text really shaped the rest of the material in an interesting way, and made them matter in a way I hadn't thought about. I really like how the This thickens the story elements as I am able to jump back into the material and keep using and reinforcing certain concepts. Agrippa is of course the most extreme effect of this method, which grew from a small reference to becoming one of the most important characters in the game.
Выиграть время. Сделаем все, что сможем.
С темницами мы ничего сделать не сможем, но нужно укрепить слабые балки. Земля задрожит, и все может рухнуть на нас, особенно в нижних помещениях. Здесь, здесь и здесь. Пусть слуги принимаются за работу.
«17 мая, 1839 год. Мне показалось, что я колотил по камню целую вечность, пока не отчаялся. Я был заперт. Задыхаясь, я рухнул на пол и попытался собраться. Вдруг я заметил слабый синий свет. Я с трудом передвигал ногами, но заставил себя идти к этому завораживающему свету. Он не спешил гаснуть. В темноте я чувствовал его притяжение. Я потянулся к свету, но он выскользнул из пальцев и ярко вспыхнул, унося меня прочь. На меня навалились странные видения. Я видел спиральные башни, бесконечные пустыни и невозможную архитектуру. Следующее, что я помню, это скрежет камня и голоса арабов, которые вытаскивали меня из усыпальницы. В руках я сжимал осколки странной реликвии.
When I started writing, I had only outlined the framework for the story and the first few levels in the game design document, so I ended up finalizing a lot of material for the first levels, and then when those were done, we planned out the last 2/3 or so. This had a funny effect since I had to not only cater to the story, but to stay true to the stuff I've written for the first levels. Usually you can go back and forth while writing and change things, but if you have already recorded voices, you really shouldn't because of the costs. So the first text really shaped the rest of the material in an interesting way, and made them matter in a way I hadn't thought about. I really like how this thickens the story elements, as I am able to jump back into the material and keep using and reinforcing certain concepts. Agrippa is of course the most extreme effect of this method, which grew from a small reference to becoming one of the most important characters in the game.
Действуй быстро. Когда задействуешь первую, услышишь этот звук. Если он прекратится, придется начать сначала.
А это не слишком?
Нельзя пренебрегать осторожностью, Даниэль.
This is one of the many hub levels in the game. And this is a design concept that we started out with in Penumbra. The idea is to give the player some freedom on where to go, but at the same time give a clear objective. In this level, the slime obstacle is a thing that the player needs to get past, and all other levels then have things needed to do so. The slime itself is one of the few puzzles left from the initial designs, and the one I'm probably the least proud of. Now that slime appears all around, it feels a bit forced that you need to have a potion on the slime. Many testers also complained that they wanted other options in getting rid of the slime, like burning it. However, creating a potion is the central theme for this hub, so we had to let it be. I don't think it's that bad, but we probably could have redesigned it if we had time.
Particle editor is also a fine part of the tool bundle, and it is what we use to create particle effects for maps and events. We use particles to do nice effects like the flames in torches and the smoke that comes out from them. All we have to do is add one or more particle emitters, set up some parameters like starting position and speed, on all sorts of fadings in size, color or speed. It's funny how you can simulate all kinds of effects with such simple elements. I very much recommend you to try it yourself.
In early concepts, this was meant to be a sort of wine testing room and directly connected to the wine cellar. The reason for the whole wine testing thingy was that we planned on having more laboratories in later levels, so a lab here as well felt kind of strange. Then things changed and only one lab was left in the design, so we changed the name to laboratory instead. The whole wine testing facility that could make dangerous acid always felt kind of strange anyways. In early concepts, this was meant to be a sort of wine testing room and directly connected to the wine cellar. The reason for the whole wine testing thingy was that we planned on having more laboratories in later levels, so a lab here as well felt kind of strange. Then things changed and only one lab was left in the design, so we changed the name to laboratory instead. The whole wine testing facility that could make dangerous acid always felt kinda strange anyways.
The particle editor is also a fine part of the tool bundle, and it is what we use to create particle effects for maps and events. We use particles to do nice effects like the flames in torches and the smoke that comes out from them. All we have to do is add one or more particle emitters, set up some parameters like starting position and speed, and all sorts of fadings in size, color or speed. The particle editor is also a fine part of the tool bundle, and it is what we use to create particle effects for maps and events. We use particles to do nice effects like the flames in torches and the smoke that comes out from them. All we have to do is add one or more particle emitters, set up some parameters like starting position and speed, and all sorts of fadings in size, color or speed. It's funny how you can simulate all kinds of effects with such simple elements. I very much recommend you to try it yourself.